So, welcome to tonight's episode of Mark and Bliss's Super 70s. We're exploring the wild, wild world of women on the Verge and on the singles charts in the 70s. And our first case study, or group of case studies, will be a category we like to call psychic turbulence.
Psychic turbulence.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of my share of psychic turbulence. So.
Okay. And so the funny thing is with our first artist here, Helen Reddy, is that she had kicked open the door to feminist pop in the 70s with I Am Woman.
Hear Me Roar.
And,
like Katy Perry, baby.
A couple of years later did Angie Baby. As we discussed earlier, the woman who sucks her fantasy boyfriend into the radio.
Yeah. Helen actually penned the lyrics to I Am Woman. Something that expressed her excitement that she was feeling with the burgeoning of the feminist movement, and really didn't see anything that excited her, so she thought, I'll just write it myself.
Yeah.
So she penned the words, and I think and she almost a burst of inspiration for her with that song, which she, as inspiration happens, came up with the words, I am strong, I am invincible, I am woman, and kind of went from there.
And it's a #1 hit, but also it's probably hard for us to assess. We were all of 11 years old at the time, but you have to imagine that song rankled a few sensibilities in radio land. But again, the curious thing that she does after this for a couple of years is record songs about women going through some kind of tremendous psychic turbulence.
Yes.
And so the first example we'll take up was a #1 country hit for Tanya Tucker a year earlier.
Top 10 country hit.
Right.
Number 6 on the country charts.
Delta Dawn. So here you have a case of someone even more extreme than George Jones's He Stopped Loving Her Today from 1980. Case of psychic dislocation after a death.
And all sparely done in 2 verses. Watch out for those promises that men make. Man of love came creeping by her side, promised her he'd take her for his bride. Well, now you know what happened with Delta Dawn. Okay, so we got to, and we see coming up with several and some others with the jilted theme.
Right. It's not quite at the level of, Faulkner's woman poisoning her husband and leaving him in the bed to decay, but again, for the charts, pretty disturbing mental territory. Another one would be the song called Big Ol' Ruby Red Dress, parentheses, Leave Me Alone.
Actually, it's in reverse.
Okay.
It's called Leave Me Alone, parentheses, Ruby Red Dress. Okay. And it is nothing if not the absolute sequel. Well, it's actually Delta Dawn about 10 years later, maybe. Same theme. In fact, Helen Reddy actually will not do the song anymore. She agreed to it. She kind of wearied of it because she thought it was just too similar to Delta Dawn. And I think it uses the phrase "leave me alone" like 40-something times. It's very repetitious.
Oh, it's awfully catchy though.
It is.
Believe me, we're hearing it in our heads right now as we speak. But a woman who is sort of shunned by the community, sort of almost a back lady type, would you say? Yeah,
I mean, if you're walking around and that's all you're saying, leave me alone. I mean, I'm sorry, I do kind of hear that stereotype.
Right. Now you've got this sexual freedom whole thing going, and yet that freedom is going to release a whole lot of other underlying forces, and now these are going to get on the radio.
Yeah. Can I point out that in Ruby Red Dress that it was a man who came up from Tennessee. Watch out for those Tennessee guys.
Yeah.
But, I like the geography of that. So up from Tennessee, if the songwriter's being accurate, then maybe that's in Kentucky. That little detail in the song, which is also spare details, kind of drew a wry smile from me.
Well,
a man came up from Tennessee.
Well,
I live in Tennessee, by the way.
Well, and Quentin Tarantino, all the little references to Tennessee
Maynardsville,
in his movies, and
Inglourious
Prince,
Basterds,
Alphabet Street.
Oh yeah,
I think I'm gonna drive.
That's the
to
funniest
Tennessee.
line in that song to me. Prince singing Tennessee.
He's
It cracks me up.
It doesn't sound like a location for Prince, but
Yeah.
it worked in the song because it just out of nowhere.
Got a grin out of me.
Yeah, I would say by '75. She was settling back into, even though she was often host of the Midnight Special, our favorite catalog of these kind of songs from that period, she was fading back into just pure pop. You and Me Against the World, very nice mother-daughter song, but I can't think of another chart entry or low-charting song of hers that really addressed a serious female issue rather than...
It's interesting how these hers get framed. The Turbulent Women, which are kind of in the middle. But, her very first, if it's not the first, it's one of her early ones, was I Don't Know How to Love Him. That's from Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah.
Now think about that.
But how are you supposed to approach Jesus in the 70s?
Yeah.
You make it a romance.
You make it a romance. And at the end, I think her very last top 10 hit was Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady. Which was also female written. Harriet Shock penned that one.
Very good.
And it's actually, if you listen to that one, it's actually a very mature, thoughtful feminist breakup song. Yeah, I love the opening couplet of Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady. It's such a wry, almost comic second line of that song.
Yeah.
His relationship with himself or something, and the second line is something like, "I could have sworn that it was me that you were having a relationship with," but like sarcastically,
because Lord knows the Guys on the Make theme was nearly universal out there. So it was a nice little pop protest against that kind of thing.
And in part of this this psychic turbulence theme, one of the themes that we saw with women in songs in the 70s.
Okay.
And this figure is the one and only
Cher.
Cher.
And the first thing I'd like to say about Cher, for me, the most interesting thing about Cher, because we did poke a little bit at Barbra Streisand in a previous episode, and I mean no disrespect. She's a great artist. Again, the opinions we're offering are just our opinions. What did we hear? What did we like then? What do we like now? What can we still listen to? A lot of times an old song that you hated becomes a beloved song 30, 40 years later. But if I had to define the difference between my not playing Streisand records and my total ability to play a Cher's greatest hits, it would be, and I'm borrowing this from Robert Christgau, her awesome vulgarity. She was totally up for the melodrama, and she was going to give it to you hardcore. Streisand is like the china plates that your mother gets at her wedding, and she never wants to use them because they're china plates, and you might scuff them with your fork. Well, Cher is eating a cheeseburger on a paper plate, and even in her 80s, when she's straddling the cannon on the Navy ship, she's awesome at that. It's her milieu. It's her thing. To go along with the outrageous garb she wore in the 70s, like, oh, that is so tacky. I can't believe that Cher is wearing that. Yes. But all of those early #1 hits of hers those characters were all females, all on the margins. The margins of society. Right. And just as a brief remark about tacky, okay? Tacky was evil in the 70s. One of the most hated shows by critics, the keepers of the public good, was The Gong Show. The tackiest, cheesiest, goofiest, most silly thing that could ever exist on TV. And so I imagine those same people had that opinion about Cher too. But here, you get the point of total fascination. You heard Dark Lady once, you had to hear it 3 or 4 times until you got every detail of the story. Yeah.
Should we refresh our audience's memories?
We
of
shall.
That? Okay. Dark. We're not going to do all the Cher melodramas, but
We'll mention them.
Well, yeah, of course.
Half-Breed.
Half-Breed, Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves.
Thieves.
Actually, the guitarist for the Ventures wrote the song.
Yes.
He was on tour in Japan and was kind of pinning this and kind of had it half finished and sent it to Snuff Garrett.
Right.
And Snuff's comment was, "Make sure the bitch kills him." Excuse me, but so anyway, the Dark Lady's in New Orleans for the Fortune Queen of New Orleans. She pulls up in a limousine. She's scratching her cat and
Black Cat.
And so the singer follows the Dark Lady to her fortune telling room, and she sits down to tell her fortune, not with tarot, but a regular deck of cards. And there's the symbolism in the cards. You've got the queen and a 3. Ooh, a tryst, 3-way. And then the next card I think is a jack, symbol with a mustache. I think symbolizing the man and the dark.
She saw black, but I
saw red. Yes. And the Dark Lady's advice to her is to leave this place, never come back again, and forget that she ever saw the Dark Lady's face.
Oh, if it were only possible.
The Dark Lady, the singer goes back to the room, is thinking about all the Dark Lady said, and realizes that perfume that the Dark Lady was wearing, she has smelled that perfume in her own room before. Uh-oh. She gets a gun. You know this is not going to turn out well. She goes back to where the Dark Lady told her fortune. She finds the Dark Lady with her man. She shoots them both dead. It's a double murder song in 1974. 1974 was a murderous year.
Yeah.
Did you know that there were, I counted about at least 6 songs that involved death or killing?
Was The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia?
Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia. Billy Don't Be a Hero. I don't think he came back from that war.
Yeah.
But you had I Shot the Sheriff that year, too. There was a lot of murdering going on in 74.
But this is the closest thing to like a genuine murder ballad.
This is a crime of passion.
Yeah. Well, it is, but it's, again, like Angie Baby, it's also a Twilight Zone episode.
Yes, it is.
All the details match up, which is why, as a young person, you could listen to it over and over, seeing if you'd missed any of the clues, you know?
Yeah.
We would like to know, we'll get to this again when we look at a song by Hot Chocolate from the following year, but we don't hear tragic narrative songs.
By women.
You know.
Usher had his.
It just doesn't
songs, but
maybe it doesn't work with the EDM, bouncy, dancy. I need a 3-word slogan to make everybody feel empowered in the audience, rather than dealing with the real and tragic lives that real women are dealing with, no less than they were in the 70s. Katy Perry write a tragic murder song.
Taylor Swift needs to write a tragic murder song.
She could do that.
Beyond just the I broke up with the boyfriend.
If Garth Brooks could do it, you could do it.
The Thunder Rolls, right?
Yes.
You know.
If he could do that, where are the narratives? How many songs that are heard on the radio aren't just strung together phrases that never tell a story? It's like snapshots, a series of snapshots, like the intro to this show.
We're going to move on to another subcategory, talking about our women coming up next.